Hello, everyone. How's it going? Welcome to a night at Dead by Daylight. I'm your humble host, Tick MC, and tonight we're going to play some random killers before my friends jump on. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. Please consider giving a like and a subscribe. I would very much appreciate it. But I've been having a conversation through my YouTube channel that I feel like has some value in discussing. So we had one commenter, and I really appreciate it whenever anyone comes by and comments. And the conversation kind of went in a couple directions. The first one was, I don't know how many games into last night we were when I played a doctor game, and I vaulted through a window, and halfway, like, down the way, I get hit. And even the commenter acknowledged that hit was kind of BS. But the interesting thing is kind of where the conversation goes. And I want to make sure that I just kind of discuss it before I get into games, because things I agree with him on. By that time in the night, it was already easily going to be a miserable night. The killers... we tried a few games where we're just going to try to make a build work, and the killers camped and tunneled. And then I'm like, all right, cool. So we got to focus on gens. And then we faced killers who had anti-gen builds. And then we were like, you know what? We're going to try to have some laughs. And it just kind of was one of those bad nights where whatever you were trying to do, like, you weren't going to be able to do it. And, by the time we got to the doctor side of things, like, I was already pretty annoyed. And what I want to do a better job in, and I can't promise, like, oh, starting today, here's the thing. Where we disagree, and I'm not entirely positive, but if I understand, the frustration was in the number of complaints I made about Killer. And one point he made was, you weren't talking about what you did wrong. Well, I spend a lot of time talking about what I do wrong. A lot of the comments I make are like, I should have done this or I shouldn't have done that. I never affirm to be a great player because I'm not. And I try to represent the community I'm trying to build on my channel. If you are looking for the best of the best, playing the best, I'm not that guy. I'm on an Xbox playing in my garage in my 40s. I represent the guy who just wants to play this game, and whether he plays one game or 20 games, the games are fun and competitive for both sides. And that's not the reality of Dead by Daylight. My frustration is, if I play Survivor, and most of the studies I've done, looking at all the statistics that are available, if you are the most amazing survivor in the world, and you log on and you're playing solo queue, or even if you're bringing friends, the killer is still more likely to win than you are to escape. I've seen exceptions, but my point is that they are exceptions. I think the big umbrage came from me complaining about the aspects of the game that make it killer-sided. And that's where we're just not going to come to an agreement. We're not going to see eye to eye there. If you believe the game is survivor-sided, I don't understand it. It makes no sense to me. There's no rationale behind that. Even now with some of the broken bugs that are in the game, even now with some of the broken aspects of it, and they are broken, then they need to be fixed. But even now, when I play Killer, I expect to win. And when I play Survivor, I expect to die. I don't think that should be a thing. And whatever metric you want to measure, and I am open if you put in the comments below, well, check out this guy's channel, check out this data, check out this website. There is not a measurable way to look at this game and not come to the rational, scientific conclusion that the game is killer-sided. Now, how killer-sided? Then we have some debate there. But killers are probably going to win and survivors are probably going to lose. How certain that is, that's a debate, but there is no debate on the expectation. If you play in a game of Dead by Daylight, you should expect the killer to win and the survivors to die. because that's what the data says happened. Now, I've done this study several times at different points in history, even now with the broken, what's the word, glitches that are in the game, the bugs that are in the game. Like, no matter how you look at it, even now, it's just built in a way to favor the killer. I'm not anti the killer should win. It's a horror movie. The killer should kill a lot more of the people. I'm not even opposed to the games being where one person gets out. But 4K 5 gen shouldn't be a thing. Neither should it be 4-man out, teabagging out the way of the game. Like, this is an aspect of it, but it's not something that should be on either side. So you get me 4 games into it, and I realize no matter what I'm trying to do as a survivor, my only real job as a survivor, and this is my assertion, when you play Survivor on Dead by Daylight, the real reason you exist is to amuse the killer or maybe mildly frustrate the killer. You're there to give the killer someone to kill. You are not expected to get out. You are not expected to win, and good luck having fun on that role. Now, if you are one of the best in the world playing on a top team, that's a different thing entirely, but you're talking about the 0.001% of the game. I represent the average person at best. You watch my last couple games on either side, I'm like, I don't know, I think I might suck. I think I suck. And I'm not, like, complaining or whining about it. I'm just acknowledging, like, I don't think I'm half... I used to think I'm pretty average. That was, like, my thought going into Dead by Daylight. And I'm like, maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm just that bad. And that might be the truth. But I don't think a game should be unplayable for people. I think that any game in the world should have some level of playability. And my umbrage, and obviously when you're in your emotion and you're frustrated and irritated and you're tired, obviously you're going to make comments. And yeah, you're going to get whiny. What I don't understand is why content creator, and I have a great degree of respect for all the content creators. But I've seen Otstarva just lose his mind when the killers had a background player and a flashlight. And he's like legit upset in the moment. Again, we're only talking about anyone in the moment. And you would think by watching that clip that he's losing his 28th game in a row, when really, I think he was on game 18 of a win streak that ended up being a 50-game win streak with the unknown. Or any killer in a game where the survivors managed to miraculously finish all gens. Honestly, 5 gens get done somewhere between 45 and 65% of the time based on my data. And look, all I can do is accumulate my data. I would love Dead by Daylight to release those stats. We'll see if it ever happens. But my point is, if 5 gens get done, killer mains are outside their mind. They're angry. Even if they actually win that game, which happens usually, well, they only lose half the games that happens in. Again, according to my data. And I also looked at other streamers, and I went through their games. I'm like, how many games do they lose when all 5 gens are done? Half or less. Half at worst. Or less. So I'm always going to try to get better. I'm always going to eventually, like, take a nap and reflect and be like, well, what could I have done? Because anyone should do that, and that's true. Whenever you're losing, you should look at, like, what did I do? What should I have done? But that's not going to change the reality that when I play this game and I'm frustrated at this game, that my frustrations exist because I'm playing in a system designed to help one side and one side only. And this is usually when people are like, well, what about this for survivors and that for survivors? Until survivors start winning regularly, you have no foundation based on fact. Even now with broken bugs, where survivors like legit should be just owning killers right now. That's how broken these bugs are. And yet, even with those broken bugs, a killer with half a brain can play a little strategically and still win. Now, that gameplay may not be fun in and of itself, but with a killer, I can play in an unfun way and win. with survivors, if I don't have a 4-man Swift and bring the most broken stuff and have the best communication, the killer's gonna beat us. And how much the killer complains while beating us, and those complaints are validated. You're right, this is wrong, this is terrible. And yet, I play in a game of Dead by Daylight, and I'm angry and I'm frustrated because I'm losing one of 11 games. And sure, I could have played better. I'm not denying that. I'm not denying how much better I could have and should have played. But at some point in time, you realize you're playing a game where you're supposed to lose, and that's going to annoy you. And it's made all the more annoying to me because killers get angry and there's a lot of commiseration. But survivors lose, and it's like, well, you didn't play right. You didn't play well. I'm still a nobody. And that's not me, like, complaining or whatnot. I have, like, some, depending upon where you go, I have between 30 and 80 followers, depending upon what platform you go on. I don't matter. But I do affirm that these things I'm saying are true, and the truth is measurable based on actual data. So I want to try to do a better job of not losing my cool. But I'm a survivor main. I'm slowly moving toward killer main because I just like winning. And that kind of gets to the core of it. I don't think, like, how do you win at Dead by Daylight? Play killer. That's how. If you want to win with reliability, play killer. And on Survivor, you really just need to be okay with, I had a fun chase, I got a funny stun. You know, like, you need to be okay with the fact that you're going to die. Because it's very, very unlikely you will escape. And if you escape, it's very, very likely it won't last long. To my knowledge, the best single survivor streak is still, to this date, Noob 3. Way back in the days when it was actually more fair towards survivors. And his best streak ever, once ever, was 50. And he had a friend. And even then, this is fact, like, Dead by Daylight put out a hit on him, like, kill Noob 3. I think A-Run's gone on a couple respectable ones, where they were like 20 games. It is quite possible and common for a killer to go on 40, 50 game streaks. In any way you want to measure it, the game is killer-sided. And that is something I'm going to point out. And it's something that's going to frustrate me, especially when I'm at a place where I'm like, I'm not even trying to escape. I'm just trying to do fun, funny things. And it's still no. The only thing you can do is amuse the killer to a certain degree. And there's a killer that breaks every build. There's a map that breaks every build. And unless I bring a team on the best map with the best builds and use the best communication, you're probably going to die. I want to try to do a better job of being calm in how I explain things. But I'm an inherently passionate guy. The way I react to my own games, that's like when I watch the 49ers, that's like how I am. When I watch a boxing match, I might watch a game of chess. And I'm a passionate person. I love good play and I hate bad play. I love it when I play well, and I hate it when I play poorly. And I love it when my team is on the same page and we're communicating. And I hate it when my team has a rebel or two. Because I like unity, I like excellence. And in the world where we're full of humans and we're prone to mistakes, I think anyone can naturally get over one or two issues. But I don't necessarily think anyone is going to be chill when they're struggling. Now, the measure of any person, and I really want to get here. Like, I really want to be the kind of guy to where I just don't get bothered. But I'm not. I'm just not. And I don't expect anyone to be. I try to rationalize what's going on. And after a while, I'm going to look at, like, what I did and be like, okay, this is true. But that's not going to change my overall perspective. The only thing that will change my perspective on whether or not this game is killer-sided is showing me the killer who loses. Show me the killer, not with a losing night, although that would be surprising. I actually had a losing night 2 nights ago. Show me the killer who has an ongoing losing record. Show me that guy. Show me the killer who has a win rate below 40%. And if you can't show me that guy, you are not going to convince me differently than I believe, because when you play Survivor, you lose 50, 60% of the time or more. Even when you see people doing these huge streaks and whatnot, again, unless you're Eternal, and they, in and of themselves, based on their skill and their ability, they break the game. But those are exceptions, and I am talking about us normal human beings. But this individual brought up a lot of good points, and there are absolutely there are ways I can play better. Absolutely, I need to be less animate, but I don't know how I'm going to do that. Like we're talking about who I am as an individual, and I don't expect anyone to change who they are. But it's an area of improvement to be able to just look at a thing and say a thing and state a thing. But the conversation and debate all started in the killer-sided mindset. It was someone who did not like the assertion that the game is killer-sided. And there were lots of reasons. And again, like one of the reasons the game is killer-sided is idiots like me keep playing Survivor. But that does not change. The reason why does not change the what element in a conversation. Every sentence has a who, what, when, where, and why. Well, not every sentence, but you look at basic data, who, what, when, where, and why. The what element is what matters, because that is true. That is the thing that happened. You can understand why a thing happened. You can understand how a thing is possible, but neither of those details alter the reality that is created by the event. Killers win, survivors die, and it happens mostly for the killer and less often for the survivor. With that said, with my opinion on this said, I'll stand behind that, and I'll work as a person to develop and grow and not be so animated. I have friends who play this game way more for fun than I do. And I need to be okay with losing, even if I'm trying very, very hard to lose. But I don't. My brother doesn't like to lose. I don't like to lose. Losing sucks. Losing is not fun. And I'm never going to play a game and not get angry when no matter what I do, I still lose. Now, you can reply, but then why play a game? Because I love this game. I know what this game can be at its best. And this message isn't different whether it's me, or it's Dava, or True Talent, or Aaron. I love this game. And there are things that are wrong with this game fundamentally. Because another point that I made is I'm actually okay if the killer wins 6 out of every 10 games. I would not necessarily be angry at that fact if the gameplay of the killers and the survivors is what determined that. But RNG, we tested this. I had another commenter and we came in and we scrimmed. RNG has way more to say with it than my skill. You give me a tight 3 gen, I'm going to win. And if you win, that's going to be a surprise. But give me a tight 3 gen 10 times, I'm going to win 6 of those games. I play without perks and without add-ons with every killer that I use. And I win 52% of those games. And I'm bad. I'm not a great player. If I can win 5.2 out of every 10 games without perks, without add-ons, regardless of the killer I'm using, what's going to happen when a good player brings a good build? You might argue, well, the MMR is different. That's why I analyze True Talent's games. He wins 75% of it. No, 72. His kill rate's 75%. His win rate was 72. And that's based on one specific date. I went through all of his games. Obviously, I don't have time to track everybody every day, but that every time I do this experiment, it pumps out the same data. The better you are, the more you win as killer, and the less the survivors win. So we'll see. I'll try to learn from it. I'll try to grow, but I wanted to start there because it was a very good discussion. It was very enlightening, and I've been going back and forth. I'm like, you know what? Let's make a little video here where I kind of go into that. So on my end, I need to play better. Of course I do. I'm terrible. But I got 6,000 hours plus on this game. I don't know how much better anyone expects me to get. Well, then maybe you shouldn't play. That's where I have a complaint. This is a video game, ladies and gentlemen. If I am only so good and I want to get in the NFL, you know what? Maybe I'm not good enough and I have no right to be in the NFL. If I'm only so good and I can't get in the NBA, that's a thing. Maybe I shouldn't be good enough to get in the NBA. But this isn't college football. This isn't even high school football. This is a video game. And until they turn this into like a true professional video game, then again, you're creating a standard. And maybe I should not play this game because I'm not good enough to be in it. But this is a video game intended for a wide variety of people. You can't produce a video saying why is the player number going down and then say, if you're not good enough, don't play my video game. You cannot say both. If you want to create a professional video game, you should expect a very small number of players. But then if you run a company, how do you make money? But if you want a large number of players, you need to cater to a large number of skill sets, which is what MMR should do, but it doesn't. And everyone's going to acknowledge MMR is broken. I don't know. I've never once seen anyone go, you know what, MMR is not that bad. So I don't think I'm like ruffling feathers when I say that. But I want the game to be fun for all people at all levels. I want the game to be about the skill of the players at all levels. So yeah, if I go into a game and the survivors are like, oh, I'm just looking for flashlight saves and head-ons, I can circumvent that as killer. And that's kind of on them. If they don't adapt in the game, can't do anything about it. Well, I mean, you can. You can adapt in the game, or you can try to force a thing that I'm not allowing. But that is skill expression. If I'm in a game and I'm like, I know you're trying to use head-on and flashbangs and flashlights, and I can get around that, unless you brought a very specific build and you're communicating perfectly, you're not gonna win. In fact, when I see a lot of flashlights in a lobby, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna win this one, because they're gonna goof around, and I'm not goofing around. So either you need to get serious, do the gens, and get out, and then I lose. Or you can continue to try to force a thing, but then I'm going to win because my strategy counters your strategy, which at least is still skill expression. So these are my thoughts on the matter, and I'll try to be a little more self-reflective before I'm looking at this stuff. But I keep analyzing Dead by Daylight. So I want to end this little testimonial with some affirmations. And I am open to information that could change my mind. But that information must be fact-based, verified, or verifiable. You can't respond with yes or no. You need to have something that proves your data, that is something anyone can measure. That's what makes it science. 1, this game is killer-sided. I don't care why. I don't care how. It is. Killers win. Like during this conversation, the worst killer has a 46.2 kill rate. It might be 44. No, I think it's 46.2. I don't have it in front of me. So that's the worst killer win rate. And the worst killer tie rate I saw was 7.98. So killers only lose, 53. They only lose 47% of the time. And survivors only win. The best survivor escape rate on Nightlight is 44%. So the best survivor is still worse than the worst killer. This game is quantifiably killer-sided. And you measure what the game is, not by what could be, but what is. Killers win, survivors lose. There is no metric anyone has shown me that disproves that. 2, this game is not fun because the most effective ways are the most boring things. You want to win as survivors, do the gens, hold one button, and run out. You want to win as killer, find a guy, hook a guy, find a guy, hook a guy, and then bounce back and forth between those two. Get a kill in before 5 gens are done, and you're looking at a 2K or better guaranteed. So you tunnel 2 out, and you're there. If you tunnel 1 out, the survivors should get out. But even then, I do that a lot. And the survivors kill themselves trying to help their teammate have a good time, which goes toward my point. Survivors die trying to help their teammate and trying to interact chase. But a smart killer's like, no, I don't have time to chase you. I want to go for chases. Chases are fun, but I can't because then I'll lose. So the game is unfun because the most effective ways to win are the most boring ways to play. So those are the things that I see. And if the player base persuades the developers in a better manner, if they're in the forums, if they're in the chats, and they're pointing out these truths. When I say a 3-gen shouldn't be possible, I'm not saying killers should lose. That's what killers think when I say that. But I just don't think I should win a game because I can track 3 gens. I think that if I'm going to win as killer, I should be able to find, chase, and down survivors. And I think if I'm going to win as survivor, I should be able to outrun the killer for an amount of time. And that's when we get into fairness and balance. Because, look, if a survivor runs me for 40 seconds, I deserve to lose. I believe that, like in my heart. If I'm a killer and the chase goes more than 40 seconds, I'm like, I should lose this game. And if I down a survivor in less than 40 seconds, I should be like, I got this game. I should win this game. Now, it might not be 40 seconds. The 40 seconds is my opinion. But if the game came to me and said, no, your chase should be this. They just released a stat and it said, in a game, one survivor is likely to be chased for a total of 1 minute. Well, maybe that's the standard that they're aiming for. I don't know. I wish this data came with a whole lot more context. But wouldn't it be great if you could go for chases and have a hope of winning as killer? Wouldn't it be great is if you ran a killer well, not only did your team have a chance of getting out, but you would be rewarded. Because right now, if you run a killer for 5 gens and die, the game says you lost. Even though you're the reason everyone else won, you lost. And I think that's wrong. I don't think that should be. So those are my points. I stand behind them and I will continue to stand behind them. But now, that's going to allow me to hopefully move forward with this idea where I'm going to try to explain things in a calmer manner and try to look at myself first. But that's not going to change my desire to be like, but look at all the factors that have nothing to do with me or even the other player. I'll try to point them out in a more reasonable way, but that's kind of where it all comes down to. So that is my conclusion that I've drawn from this conversation. And I really, really appreciate the conversation. There were a lot of really interesting points brought up. There was a lot of good guidance. This guy gave me a lot of really good feedback. And I want to take that on board. I really do need to look behind myself. Now, again, I'll note I'm playing console. On one side, I'm like, hey, I play console, and I still win a lot. But I don't think you're going to perform very well on console. Because console, I don't think the game's really designed for that. It's good. I'm happy it's here. But if you really want to be an outstanding Dead by Daylight player, you really should buy a PC and practice on PC. It's just kind of what it was, the specs it was built on. And that I'm actually okay with. That disadvantage I'm all right with. But I'll never shy away from these basic ideals until someone shows me like, hey, watch this poor streamer here. He's a killer main and he only wins 1 out of 10 matches. Or even, he plays twice a week and loses more than he wins. That guy doesn't exist. I will believe it if someone shows it to me, but I haven't found that guy yet. So we'll see. I might even have a losing night tonight, but I'll play again tomorrow and I'll win. Like I know that when I play killer. Without further ado, we're going to move forward, but I thought it was nice to hone in on that before we started getting in some games, and I was really kind of hoping my friends would come on in that, but that's just not how it went. So we'll move forward. If you listen to this whole thing, I don't know, let me know your real thoughts, but this commenter was right. I was angry. I was ticked off. I was, but I've had a night to sleep on it. I have some time to think on it. Like, if you just think about it analytically, what is actually inaccurate about what I'm saying? What are the things that you can bring up a statistic? You can be like, hey, look on Nightlight. This is untrue based on this math. But there still hasn't been math that disproves what I'm saying. There's been things that explain why, but that's all there is to it. I appreciate it if you listen, like and subscribe. Let your comments go on below. I love the discussion. I love the commentary. These conversations, well, this is more of a one-way thing, but It takes a long time for me to be on my cell phone typing, whereas this, I can just talk and respond. And if you want to come onto the channel and have this discussion, I love this kind of conversation. I do. And I want to have more of it. And I want it to be civil and based on data and based on fact, just to kind of see what we can all agree on. Because I think that somewhere in all this is a common list of agreements we can all come to that will make this game better and more fun for everyone who plays, which is really all I'm after. So thanks for listening. We'll move on from that. We'll post this video and we'll start playing some killer games and